Hey guys, welcome to HipHughes History and perhaps the fastest presidential election video that I've ever made, the election of 1820. You want to know why it's going to be so fast? Because I only have one candidate. Giddy up for the learning, guys. Let's go get her done. So the election of 1820 is really kind of the weirdest election in American history because we only really have one candidate. Now, James Monroe is going to win every electoral vote except for one. And that's kind of an anomaly. There was an elector who cast their ballot for John Quincy Adams, who wasn't even running. Some people think this was to make sure that George Washington was the only American president that had a unanimous electoral college victory. But that elector actually said it was because he hated James Monroe. But nevertheless, it's not like it's a perfect situation in the United States in 1819. We had our first economic panic in 1819, a depressed economy, and we have a lot of controversy with Missouri coming into the Union as a slave state with this new Missouri Compromise. So really, this is the beginning of sectionalism, but the Democratic Republicans are united around James Monroe as their choice. He faces no serious opposition from within the party, even though there are these serious issues that are going on in the political environment. The Federalist Party, bum, bum, ba-bum, bum, ba-bum, ba-bum, ba-bum. They're dead, guys. The Hartford Convention in 1814 really made sure of that. They did field a candidate in the 1816 race with Rufus King, but they're not even going to get together to have a party to nominate anybody this time. So the Federalists, when they did nominate a couple vice presidential nominees for the ticket, they didn't nominate an actual Federalist presidential candidate. So the era of good feelings is this definition of really having one party rule in the United States, this feeling of nationalism, and really everybody wrapping themselves around the presidency and James Monroe. So we have one ticket, we have James Monroe. So we have our candidates, James Monroe and nobody. So there it is, guys, the electoral map. It's not perfect. We have one elector from Massachusetts that does cast their vote, like we said before, for John Quincy Adams. But out of 24 states, we have 24 states for James Monroe. Nothing like this since George Washington, without a doubt. Now, even though the Federalists did not run a presidential candidate, they still had a ticket with vice presidential nominees, and they picked up about 17,000 votes, but 87,000 votes for James Monroe. Of course, there's only 7 states that have popular votes back then, but that's about 80% of the popular vote for James Monroe. But electorally, yeah, we have a wipeout. Now, it depends whether or not you want to believe that Missouri was a state back then. Missouri had just entered the Union, but there was some controversy of whether their electoral votes should count because their state passage in Congress was past the date they had cast their votes for the election. But at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter, does it? So whether you want to believe it was 228 electoral votes for James Monroe or 231, who really cares? Now, there is one anomaly which is kind of interesting. 3 electors actually died before they could cast their electoral votes. So for the first time, the only time, and the last time, we have a state with less than 3 electoral votes. That's the new state of Mississippi, who cast their 2 electoral votes for, of course, James Monroe. But this is it, guys. Other than George Washington, this is the only election where a presidential candidate ran unopposed. So the era of good feelings is going to last a little bit longer, but then those good feelings are going to turn bad. You know what I mean. So, guys, we hope that you understand something about the election of 1820 and its impact on American history. I'll say it again, giddy up for the learning. Where attention goes, energy flows, and we'll see you guys next time that you press me buttons.